Okay. Yep.
Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm the host today on Arch Talk 101, and we have Eric on the line with us, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his story, introduce himself, and tell him what he's doing in the world of archery. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Well, how about if you introduce yourself and tell our listeners and those watching a little bit about yourself?
All right. My name is Eric Weber. I'm a target archer. Been doing it for roughly 25 or 26 years on and off. My son and I travel around and we shoot mostly 3D and indoor spots as of right now.
So
So
you've been
we
doing that
uh
for a
we shoot
while.
for yeah, yeah, I've been doing it for quite a while. He just joined me in 2018. He was 6 years old and decided he wanted to try it too. His dad was doing it, and he's really come a long way real fast. So
So what got you started in archery?
it's kind of a funny story. My best friend from high school is an archery hunter and has been his whole life. And shortly after high school, I went to college, and me and college didn't get along real well. So I was just looking for something to do, and he said, you should get yourself a bow. He said, I could see you like wearing one of those shirts like the pros wear. And at the time then, 25 years ago, they wore like golf shirts with like embroidered sponsors on them.
Yeah.
So he was like, I could see you wearing one of them. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I went and bought a bow and started shooting and realized how fun it was. And I jumped into it pretty hard right off the bat. So I was shooting quite a bit then, and then worked my way up, and I was shooting some IBO stuff and traveling a little bit, and was really getting into it. And then life kind of got in the way a little bit, and my oldest daughter was born, and I had to make a choice between making sure she could eat or making sure I could shoot my bow. So the bow kind of went in the closet for a while,
Yeah, that's
you
kind of
know.
a common theme. You start off in archery and then start on a family, and it goes kind of puts on the back burner, and then as they get older, you start it back up, and the kids join in.
Correct. Yes. I actually taught her how to shoot when she got old enough, and I shot a little bit with her on and off. And it kind of came in and out for, like I said, probably maybe 15 years in and out. Like I would shoot for a couple weeks and then I'd put it away or whatever, and she would shoot some. And then in 2018, a good friend of mine reopened his archery shop, and my wife said, "Why don't you get your bow out and take it up and get it checked out and just start shooting again?" And as funny as it sounds, I just kind of looked at her and I'm like, okay, but you know where this is going to go, right? You know.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, it'll be fine." And I went and got my bow tuned up, and 2 months later, I bought another bow off of a buddy of mine, and I was off and running. So
Yeah, that kind of gets you going again, and the kid's a little bit older, and then the wife says, "Go shoot your bow."
yeah, yeah.
Kind of
Not
like
not
get out of the
everybody's that
house.
lucky. Yeah, yeah. Not everybody's that lucky to have your wife say, "Hey, go get your bow and get out of here. Go do something else." So it was nice.
So, well, I can tell you that you're out camping. Where are you camping?
We're actually staying at a in a camper here in Carbon Hill, which is just outside of Nelsonville, Ohio. We're here for the third leg of the IBO Triple Crown. My son and I traveled over from PA to shoot it this weekend. So
So, how's the Triple Crown going for you guys?
very well. Um, I was lucky enough I made it into peer groups, which is basically you're in the top 10 in scores in your class. And then Grayson is shooting very well this year. He's been on the podium, I think the last 6 or 7 shoots he's been on the podium. So he's really doing well this year.
Yeah, it sounds like he is. He's doing really well.
Yeah.
It's I'm sure you have a lot of stories about different shoots you've been at, and tell us probably what the most challenging shoot you've been at. Tell us about that one.
Oh man. So probably the They're all pretty challenging, honestly. But the one that really probably got me the most, boy, Roy, that's a good one. There's
Didn't
so
mean to put you on
many.
the spot.
No, 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 that's okay. That's a great question. I would say probably the most challenging and the most rewarding at the same time would have been this shoot 2 years ago. I had to come here and I had to shoot the whole event in one day and go home immediately after. My family had something going the next day, and I had to be home there to do it. So I got up, went to work, drove here after work, which was at the time about a 6 hour drive. Um, got in the room, went to bed, got up in the morning, and came here to shoot to the college at Hawken College here. And we got here, and I started to get warmed up, and it started raining. And I don't know what you know about 3D archery or what everybody else knows about 3D archery, but basically what 3D archery is if you're there, you shoot your bow unless there's lightning or a tornado or something very bad, life threatening
Yeah.
or unsafe. So you shoot in the rain. So I started in the morning and it started raining and it rained for 38 targets straight. The last two targets, it quit raining. And it was like somebody flipped a switch. It was that fast. It was dark and gloomy and rainy. We stepped up to target 38. It quit raining. The sun come out. The ground dried up. The birds were chirping. It was like a Disney movie. And
Hmm.
um, it ended up being probably my best shoot to date as far as score wise goes. But just to walk all day long soaking wet was probably the most challenging part of it.
Yeah, that would be challenging to shoot that much in the rain, and I shoot feathers, so that would be the
Oh,
challenge to keep them dry enough to be able to shoot. You'd be constantly changing them out and trying to get
yep.
them dry, and you can't get them dry when it's raining,
No.
so you just gotta shoot in the rain and let all
Yeah.
the water fly off the bow.
Yeah. Yeah. Just adapt to it. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, learn a little different. Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be quite the challenge to shoot 38 of them targets beyond 38 and the rain finally stopped.
Yeah. So, and with the IBO stuff, it's all unknown yardage. So on top of having to stand in the rain and shoot with your equipment wet and whatever kind of equipment you might have, on top of that, you have to add in the vision factor. Rain coming down in the woods makes it darker with the gloomy. So to judge a distance on a target in the sunshine it's a different visual than looking at it when it's gloomy and raining. So that it
And
adds
then
a whole nother factor.
and then you're going through the rain, which is a little more resistance. Your
Yeah,
your arrows are collecting on the rain. The rain's collecting on the arrows, so it's most
yeah,
likely going to drop a little bit. And if you have
yep,
wind, that's going to throw it off. So that would be
yes,
quite a challenge. But that's part of shooting archery. And
oh yeah. But and like I said, that's why I say it was probably the most challenging and the most rewarding because just to get through it and to realize that like a little bit of rain it didn't hurt you. You know what I mean? You can still shoot good. Um, Everybody else had to do it. You know what I mean?
right.
Um, it was just one of those. It was very rewarding to sit there at the end of the day when you're all done. Adding your score up and just thinking like I did this and a bunch of other people did too. I wasn't like anything super special, but it was like your own little victory.
Well, and then you have to make a decision. Do I go ahead, start in the morning with it raining, or do I wait till hopefully it quits raining? And
Yeah,
in your case, you'd have shot 38 arrows,
yeah,
38 targets, and then to start on one at that time, and maybe it
yeah,
didn't start. Now then you're rushing through, and you
yeah,
probably only have a certain time limit where you have to finish it.
yeah. I mean, I think I got out of the woods at like 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I wouldn't have had time. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to finish it. I didn't have a choice. It was either don't shoot and go home or get wet. So
At that
I
point,
got wet.
if you got
Yeah,
rain gear, that helps, but if not, you just get wet.
right.
Just figure you're
100%. That's
gonna
what I
be
did.
wet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I dried out. It was fine. They
Yeah.
make towels every day. We were good.
Yeah. And you take an exchange of clothes and just change them and you're ready to go.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's what I did. I changed in the car and drove home.
Yeah. That was pretty good. What
Yeah.
place did you end up at that shoot?
I ended up finishing seventh at that shoot.
Seventh.
Yeah,
That's
and I
a
think there was
still good
probably
finish.
yeah, there was probably 40 people in the class at that time. So yeah, I was happy. It ended up being a really good weekend for me, even for scores. So
So what was it like when he was able to take your son on the first shoot like that?
oh man, so this is a special weekend for many different reasons. On top of the fact that we're here and we're shooting and we both made it to this like next level as far as being in a peer group and trying to make a run for the Triple Crown. Um, a year ago, this shoot was his first national IBO shoot, and we came up here and he wanted to try it, and we had been working up to it. We had spent some time with him as far as getting his shot process right and getting his equipment right and getting him ready for this, because it's a different deal to shoot a national event than it is to shoot your local 3D shoot. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still foam targets and it's you walking in the woods, but there's a little bit of a I don't even know how to describe it to you, like an aura about it when you get here. Like there's pros walking around and there's people that shoot really good and people you don't know. And you go up and they just put you with somebody and you're off and you're shooting. You don't have your buddies around you all the time.
Yeah, you may
And
be
so
shooting
we had to
where you don't know anybody.
correct, yeah. So we kind of found some people that we knew a little bit for him to shoot with. Actually, we knew him very well. Some friends that we had shot with for a couple of years before, and he went out like he'd been doing it his whole life and took off and went and did it. And he ended up winning his first IBO event ever here a year ago. Was his first big shoot, and he ended up winning his class in both 3D and in field. So
That's really good. How old was he then?
yeah, he was 11.
11.
Yeah, yeah, and that was kind of what set the hook for him as far as really being into it. He'd always liked it, but when he realized that he was good enough to be at that level with kids his age and that kind of stuff, um, he was like, "That's it. We're going to Worlds. Like, figure it out. Whatever we got to do, just let me know. I'll do it." At 11, how much can he do other than pack his clothes and be ready to go? But seriously, but he did great. He was very, very calm and very gathered with his stuff. So we went to Worlds and same thing kind of happened. Like we got there, he got out of the truck, went and shot with his buddies, and he ended up making the shoot down group, and he ended up finishing third at the World IBO World Championship, which was his second IBO shoot ever. So it was
That's really good.
yeah, it was it was a very cool moment to know that the work and the time we had put in to him, I could see it, every day watching him shoot, but to know that like he knew now that the work he put in and the hours of like being frustrated and the days of having trouble, doing whatever he was doing and the work we had set forth on him was it paid off. He could run with the best in his class and he did. So that was the cool part for him, for me to watch.
Yeah, it's sometimes you get more enjoyment on watching your kids do stuff like that than as if you done it yourself.
100%. Yep, 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 yeah. And when he did that, then he had set himself a goal this year. He wanted to make a run at the Triple Crown and shooter of the year and do all this stuff. And just seeing the excitement in him, and I don't know if it comes out in my voice, I can feel it in me, but like seeing that excitement in him, like rejuvenated me to be like, man, this sport this is it. This is what I wanted. I mean, this is my hobby. And it's really like giving me the boost to push myself this year to try to be better at this sport so that I can try to hang with them. I mean, we have a standing joke of the win-lose streak between us when we go to shoot like local clubs and stuff. Him and I battle it out because it's fun. And
Right.
I'll get him a couple, and then he'll beat me, and he'll be like, the streak is broken, and then it's then we're off and running again. So it's pretty cool to have somebody that you can compete with um on a level like that. And he's only 12. You know what I mean? I'm 51 years old, and he's 12 years old, and he puts me in my place most weeks. So
Yeah, it
it's
seems
pretty
like they'll
good.
do that.
Oh man, it's awesome. It's amazing.
I know that's kind of, buddy and I, we used to go 3D shoots all the time, and we didn't care if we come in last and next to last or first and second. It's just which one of us beat the other one that week.
100%. I don't have to beat
My goal is
everybody.
to beat
I
Randy, and Randy's goal to beat me.
Yep.
And
I don't have to beat
sometimes
everybody.
I
Just have
did,
to beat
sometimes
you.
I didn't.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
were just there to have fun and shoot, and then when you
Yeah.
start bringing your kids along, and I remember my youngest when going there, it's like he was just shooting those little safety tipped arrows on a little 5 pound
Hmm.
compound bow, so
Yep.
they wouldn't stick in the foam. So
Yeah.
we'd get it's like close enough you can hit. We didn't care where the markers was. Yeah,
Hmm.
at 5, 6 years old, we didn't care where the
Yeah.
markers was. We didn't be able to hit the target. And
Yeah.
if it didn't stick, he at least got 5 points. If we could see where it
Sure.
hit, then we'd give him more. But just bouncing off the target was, points. And it was just more of the fun being out there. And then as they get older, then they have bows they can actually stick them in the target. But
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. But just building that confidence in him at that age is so important. So like when he started shooting me, he was 6. And he started with the same bow you're talking about, a little 5 pound or 6 pound, maybe 10 pound compound with those fiberglass metal tipped arrows. And I think just the fact that I was learning it, and when you're that age, you always want to do what your dad's doing. It doesn't matter what he
right.
was doing. He could be digging ditches, mowing the grass. You want to help. Um, and just the fact that like he tried it, and he now has more confidence in it and more excitement in it than I did before he started it. You know what I mean? So it's a big deal for me. It kind of,
Yeah.
like I said, it pushes me every day to want to be more and more a part of it, because the archery community, as you know, obviously is so open and welcoming to anybody. You know what I mean? Most people out there don't know that. And, for people that have never done it, even target archery or even hunters, you know what I mean? I can tell you, I don't know how many people I run into that are hunters, and I say, oh, I shoot archery. And immediately, oh, what do you shoot? What do you do? What equipment do you use? Are you
Right.
you know, they're immediately like you're long lost buddies, and you should have known each other for 20 years, and you want to talk about it. And that's what hey guys, that's what I wanted to instill in him. Like, this community is so open and so great for kids, especially, to come up in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't hesitate at all bringing him to these shoots. You know, other hobbies and other stuff that I've done, racing and bicycle riding and all that stuff. It's all great fun, and bicycle riding similar, but nothing I've done as far as a hobby has been this welcoming for people. You know what I mean? Just anybody. So
Well, and if you have a bow in your hand and someone else an archer, then automatically friends. I know she probably listening to this, but I knew out roller skating. We used to roller skate all the time, and one time I wore I think my PSC hat,
yeah,
and I didn't know she was a great archer. Shooting recurves. And
yeah,
we started talking about that, and it's like, oh, cool. Not only
yeah,
good skater, but also an archer, and that's just something, like your t-shirt, I think what Bigfoot carrying a compound bow.
yeah.
um
My bow had a t-shirt.
where
Yeah,
that any archer going to see it, it's like, oh, you're an archer, what do you shoot?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
like what you said, you just, and I found that, because I've talked to people from all over the world.
Hmm.
As long as we can speak English and translate it, hey, I have you on the podcast. And I've talked to people from United Kingdom, from Ireland, from Germany, from Australia, Serbia, Bosnia, and of course Canada and United States, and some
Sure.
more
Yeah,
countries that I can't remember right now off the top of my head. But
yeah,
it's all the same thing. And I've heard stories of somebody coming in from a different country can really speak the language, and it's like, got a bow. So come on over, come to
Yeah.
our shoot and our range and start shooting. And that's just, the way, I won't say 100% of the archers are, but that's the way, um, probably 95 to 99% of the archers are, is they're going to welcome you in, with
Yep.
whatever help you have, you need. And I even had
Yeah.
one guy he was struggling competing against a pro. He's up there at that upper level, and he was struggling, and the person he was shooting against was
Yeah. Oh,
helping him
100%.
shoot better. And
Yeah.
it's like, if I, it's kind of like, okay, if I teach him to shoot better, I might lose. No, the mentality was, I need to shoot him better because it's going to make me shoot better.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I found that in other sports that I was doing, if you're
Yep.
with somebody competing
Yep.
and they're better than you are, it makes you a better at whatever
Yep.
you're doing.
Yep.
And especially in archery, when you figure out this person's nailing that X every time, it's like, what are they doing? You start watching them, start asking them. And I know I always kept my NFA archery instructor's patch on my quiver, figuring if
Hmm.
somebody had any questions, they see the instructor patch on it, they'll come ask me, because I don't
Yeah.
just go up and say, hey, I can make it shoot better,
Right.
which most people I can, but I don't go up and say that. If they're
Right.
struggling with something, hey, let's figure it out.
Yeah. They
And
have to want the help. Right.
right,
Yeah.
I'm not going to just go up and say, hey, I can make it shoot better.
Yeah.
You know, there's been
Yeah.
many of them I
100%.
could, but,
Correct. Right. But some people don't want help, and some people they're there's some people out there that the old mentality of some hunters at the time were, 20 years ago or 25 years ago or whatever, was if I can hit a pie plate, I can shoot a deer. That was the mentality. Like, people didn't
right,
want to dial it down to, like where I try to shoot now, like, at 50 yards, I want to have 3 or 4 arrows in a quarter. You know what I mean?
right,
And, they're at 20 yards. If they can hit a 10-inch circle, good enough for me. And that's okay. If you're happy with it, if that's your goal and you're meeting your goal, then you're doing everything that you need to do. You don't need me standing out there telling you to pick your elbow up, or, quit dropping your arm or whatever. Like, you know, if you're happy with what you're doing, then you're doing exactly what you need to do.
right.
You know.
Yeah, and there's just so many different things. There's, a basic concept that all archery forms are going to be around.
Hmm.
The basic concept.
Hmm.
Even when I'm teaching, I'm going to teach a specific way that works best for me, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to see what works for you and modify it. Because
Hmm.
everybody's different.
Yep.
Of course, when I teach, I tell you why I'm telling you to do it this way instead of just
Hmm.
saying, well, do it this way. And if you don't understand, then it's hard to understand what's going on if you don't know, why do I need to do this? Why do I need to do that? And I just give the why right away is when I do it. It's like, okay, here's what I want you to do, and this is why I'm going to do it. It does this, or it prevents this, or whatever. And, it just makes it there. But you got to figure out what's your form.
Yeah.
And
100%.
depending on the equipment you have. I
Hmm.
was teaching some ladies. I help the Nebraska Game and Parks out, probably about 3 times a year. There's one they have women in the outdoor, becoming an outdoor woman, and there's women in the outdoors or something. And then there's their
Hmm.
annual Missouri Valley Outdoor Expo, and I go help them up there for that. And that was a bit more the aerial archery, where they have the little foam targets you shoot at, and really not much there. But the other two, I'm actually instructing ladies on how to shoot. And you know it's so nice when you have somebody that all of a sudden it clicks, what's going on. And kind of like you see with your son, all of a sudden you see this excitement, and then growing and growing and growing, and then it's like, that's the exciting part of it.
Hmm.
And depending on your equipment, we had one time where the trigger was so far, would travel so far, you couldn't do the normal put your finger rest on it back tension,
Hmm.
because it moved like, you know a good quarter of an inch or better.
Hmm.
So you had to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
It's just part of your equipment, and
Yeah.
that's part of you going on, is learn what equipment you have. And that pretty much now any of the bow manufacturers make a good quality bow.
100%. Yes.
It's just personal preference. What do you like?
Yep. Yep.
And there are some bow manufacturers that pay you extra when you win if you have their bows.
Yep.
And we
100%. Yeah.
all know
Yeah. There's
who's doing that. Of course, Matthews. They
right.
do make
Right.
a good
There's
bow, but
Yeah.
they pay
Matthews
you
pays. Yeah.
extra.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they
Yep.
pay you. Um,
Yep.
you know, which is great because good marketing for Matthews. Um,
Yeah.
I had a
And there's
Matthews,
actually
but
quite a few companies that do it other than Matthews.
yeah, a lot of them now are getting
Uh,
into painted as well and doing stuff. I was
yeah.
a PSC
Yep.
dealer, and um, actually my staff shooters could buy them cheaper, and I could buy them wholesale. They got a better price on them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, because the deal
Yeah.
is for
Yeah.
your store shooters, they're promoting your store and promoting the
Yeah.
bow, so they get
Yep.
it cheaper. So an archer that is doing that every other year, you get beating in a new bow. So after you
Hmm.
shoot it for 2 years, or if you want to change every year, but
Yeah.
PSC did it. They changed their pro line every other year, and then their
Hmm.
main line every other year, alternating years. So you should be able to, after shoot it for 2 years, you should be able to sell it for what you paid for it,
Hmm.
and you buy the next one. So by the time you do that a few times, you should pretty much be shooting a free bow because you're selling your old equipment off for
Yeah.
as much, if not more, than you paid for it. So you're basically not, you don't have much into it, but you
Hmm.
are expected to help stuff out,
Yeah.
and promote
Oh
the
yeah.
store. And my
Yep.
shooters all did that, so that wasn't any
Yep.
big deal. But um, you know,
Yep.
that's the nice. But I know there's a couple of people I know that have been pro staff for a couple different bow manufacturers for years,
Mhm.
and it's quite an investment for somebody shooting pro staff because they got to keep up with stuff, and then they go to
Yep.
events to promote them, and it's not like you're getting it free
Right.
because the extra stuff you have to do on them. But hey, that's the fun part.
Yeah.
You
Oh
get a
yeah.
little bit of discount, and some may even give you free stuff. It all
Yeah.
depends on the manufacturer and what it is. And
Yeah.
that's the fun part. I get to shoot, and I got to try all the new stuff. And of
Yeah.
course, I got a 2001 bow that I hunt with and a 2003 bow that's for my target bow. So
Yeah.
I just don't change
Well,
bows a lot. But
there's a saying that says, fear the guy that has one bow because um he knows that bow. He knows that bow inside and
right,
out. I went to an ASA shoot a couple years ago and shot with a guy that was shooting a Matthews switchback. Now they haven't made a switchback in a long time, but
yeah,
he
that's
bought it
been
new.
probably 20 years ago
Yeah, yeah.
when
I'm
the
thinking
switchback came
I
out.
was thinking 15 at least, but he was still shooting it, and he said that he has two of them. He bought one, and then the next year bought the other one, and he's been shooting them ever since. And that dude cleaned my clock because he knew the bow. He knew exactly what it would do at any given moment, no matter what he did with it. You know, and here I was just coming into the staff program. I started out like you said with this. I was a shop staff shooter with Expedition through CNC Archery and Outdoors in Girard, which was my home shop then. Um, and I thought, here I am, big tough guy, staff shooter. Look at me, and this guy
Yeah,
what shows up with this like 15-year-old bow, and I'm like, and I didn't think anything because I knew like you don't ever count anybody out, and he
right.
wiped me out, and it was pretty cool to watch him, and he didn't care. I'm out there with my jersey on and my name on my back, and all my sponsors that I had and stuff, and he walked out there in a camouflage t-shirt and a ball cap and just showed me what was up. It was pretty neat. Just goes to show you go out there with all the equipment and all the best stuff in the world, and it doesn't matter if you don't, I don't want to say if you don't know what you're doing, but you know, no matter how good you are, there's somebody out there better. So
Right, right. There's always somebody
yeah,
better, and
yeah,
when you run into them, learn from them.
correct, 100%. And I did that day. I learned a lot from him. So
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said, getting the bow that feels good in your hand,
yeah,
and getting one that fits you. You can't fit the bow. You get a bow's got to fit to you. And
yeah,
I remember one time when I was a PSC dealer. This is 20 some years ago, and when PSE bought Browning Archery, one of the Browning
uh-huh,
bows come out with counter rotating cams. I forget
yeah,
which model it was, but the upper cams rotated opposite directions. Yeah, the concept
uh,
behind it was if they're rotating opposite directions, they should counter each other out. I said, this is cool. I wanted to shoot. So I set it up for me. I could not shoot that bow.
uh-huh,
No matter what I did, I could not get that bow to fit me. It
yep,
just would not. And I wanted to shoot it. And I just could not get that one to fit me. And, you know, that's one of the bows that I really wanted to shoot because it was kind of different
Yeah.
and it wouldn't fit me. So,
Yeah.
you know, I just sold it. Somebody bought it. Don't
Oh
remember
yeah.
now,
Yeah.
but that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, for
Actually,
sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
right, 23 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah. 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 It's crazy how all that stuff works and how you buy a bow and you're super excited about it and you spend the time and you work and you work and you work and it's close, but it's not 100%, you know.
Yeah.
Um uh one of my another I have a lot of favorite sayings as you'll find out here. Another one of them is that's why they make different flavored jelly beans. Um,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where, just because I like it and you like it doesn't mean that Jeff next door is going to like it, or vice versa. I bought many bows over the last couple of years thinking that this is going to be the end all be all. And you work and you work and you work and you get them to shoot well. You know, you can make them shoot well if you spend the time behind them usually.
Right.
But and then your buddy has the exact same bow. You worked on it for 3 months to get it okay. They pull it out of the box, throw a D loop on it and a rest and walk out back. And, they're stacking arrows together at 60 yards like it's nothing. It's the same bow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's
the shooter.
yeah, it's 100%. It's what feels better in your hand versus what feels better in my hand. And again, like I said, just because I like it doesn't mean that you're gonna, you know. And there's bow companies out there that have some fantastic marketing, and they make bows that the masses shoot well. Matthews is one of them. Um, I shoot. I signed on with Dart and Archery um, almost 2 years ago now. I've been shooting for Randy Kitts and them guys, and I'll tell you that these bows that I've shot from them, I've never shot this good. And it's one of those weird little things. Like I said, like the bows I had before, I shot great, and I thought, I shoot pretty well, And then you pick up another one, and you're like, oh, you know, this is something I'm not used to, So like you with your PSEs, I mean, you have that
Right.
your hunting one, your target one, you know, that's your bow. It's your bow. You know, the fact that you could probably pick up another one, a newer model, and shoot it well, sure, but you don't need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right now, I don't have any need to go buy a new bow. Um, I usually do because of the staff positions, because I want to be out there showing the new stuff. But
Right. That's part of being staff is you need to keep
yeah,
up with the new ones. And
yeah,
unfortunately, if you're lucky, they come out with new ones every other year.
yeah,
Um, Hoyt changed them, seemed that back a few years ago, I don't know if they still do. They'd change them every year. So
yeah,
Hoyt shooters had to change every year to change new bow.
yeah,
And it after a year, you're finally getting really familiar with it and then change the bow.
yeah.
Now they make great shooting bows.
100% they do. Yeah,
I know 20 some years ago, Dartons were good bows, but they're
yeah.
real pain to tune. I don't know if
They
they're any
they
better or
used to
not, but
be hard. Yeah.
real hard to tune because as you change one thing, it changes something else, and you're kind of
Yep.
chasing each other around. And but once you get them in tune, then you know they were really good. It's just
Oh yeah.
as the tech, it was a real pain in the rear to tune them
Yeah.
because
Yep.
as you change one thing, it changed so much the other, and then you change it, and it changes. And just to get them everything lined up like it's supposed to
Yeah.
was not an easy task, but
Yeah. Well, back then
that's
is
what you give it to the
when
tech.
yeah, archery technology back then, everybody was trying anything, and they were throwing crazy ideas at it. So,
Right.
they would make something that, they could pick up 5 feet a second, or, they could shoot, whatever, at that time, I can remember, 25 years ago, like 65% let off was the norm.
Yeah,
There was
it
like two
was.
companies out there that made one like 80%, and everybody was losing their minds over it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, and the technology then, like with the old Dartons, if you knew how to tune it, they were a phenomenal bow, but they weren't the bow that Joe off the street went and bought and tried to set it up in his garage, because unless you knew, understood the new technology at the time. The guy that was designing them, they were hard to tune. But Hoyts were the same way. I shot Hoyts then, and it wasn't set the timing, set the knock height, see you later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back then they were all like that. Now they've all become, the technology has grown so much that it's um, you're still tweaking and tuning. It's all for feel now,
Right.
but like the new stuff, Darton came out with 8 bows in the last year, new bows. So trying to keep up with the technologies that they've come out with, and it's not just Darton. I mean, every bow company, the masses have pushed the archery industry to where they want new. I want the latest, I want the greatest, I want the best thing that you've got now, and then I want it again in 3 months. So get to work. It's
Yeah.
so wild. It is. As you said, well, you had an archery shop, so how people were 20 years ago. You know what I mean? It just gets worse. I mean, think about how people now are so information driven with the internet and with social media. You know what I mean? They've got to know now. And when you're buying equipment, it's the same way. They want, you know, most bow companies release in November. You know what I mean? They come out with one new bow. Well, how many people have released their new bows in August or September to try to beat the other people?
Oh yeah.
Because, you know, look at car model years. My dad told me when he was a kid, like they released them in like September, and in August they would brown paper the showroom windows so nobody could see the new cars until their release date in September. They had the brand new car sitting in the showroom, but nobody could see them for a month. Now, you think people would stand for that? They'd be breaking the windows out.
Yeah.
That's why they're releasing cars in like February of this year as of 2026 or 2025, trying to beat the masses and trying to drive people crazy over, oh, I got to have the new gizmo, the new little gadget. And the archery industry is no different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody is the I need it now craze. Like I said, with the internet, it's so easy to get stuff. You know, the
I
the
know.
markers pushed minutely every time. 2 feet a second faster. It's this much quieter. I'm 5% quieter than last year's bow. So people want. They want change.
Yeah. I know when I first started out, the old bracket with the pins that you would loosen up and nut and slide it up and
Yeah,
down and then tighten it down
yeah,
and you turn it in and out, and every time you tighten it down, it move in or out.
yeah,
That was so and I spent a long time trying to find a site that I liked.
yeah,
And I spent all this time trying to find it. Finally found one that looked like it was going to be a good one, and that was before I had a store or anything. So I went over to
yeah,
the one archery shop, and I says, "Here, I think I want this one. This is what I want." And sure enough, they ordered in, and it's
yeah,
a great site. Now
yeah.
that would be somebody's junk drawer site because it's not good enough. But when you go from
Right.
a bracket with pins that you turn them in and out for the left and right, and you
Yeah,
tighten them down for move them up and down, there is no micro adjust. There is no fine tuning.
yeah,
Now a lot of the sites are, the left and right is fixed. So you
yeah,
just got to make sure you got your bow level and you're holding it level.
yeah,
Um, and some of them even have, micro adjusting on their sites.
yeah,
And, back then it's like, hey, we're not even to the point where we worry about hitting X's. We're just trying to hit the white ring,
yeah,
on the single
yeah,
spot, let alone
yeah,
trying to hit the X.
yeah. Get me close
And
to the middle. Yeah.
yeah, well, and back then it's mostly just aluminum arrows, and we
Mhm.
probably still have some in on someplace. The old game getters, the old green ones,
Yep.
about the first 6-8 inches was silver. We'd shoot
Yeah.
them so much it'd wear off all the anodizing
Yep.
on for the
I had
aluminum.
orange ones. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Some of the
Yep.
orange ones, they were nice ones, and
Yep.
and I finally got where I was shooting the double X 78s, which is a
Uh-huh.
1,500 straightness, and I discovered, back then it's like the straighter the arrow, the tighter the groups,
Yep.
because if it's wobbling around, and
Yeah.
I've proved it many times. That a buddy of mine was shooting one of the Beeman ones, I think is a 5,000s or something, and is the same draw length as I was, so that he's left-handed, I was right-handed. And I was here, try these arrows. And
Yeah.
instead of, keeping, that 2-inch circle, it's like he started stacking them arrows right in there. It's like, oh, that's why you buy the better quality arrows.
Yeah.
And that's pretty
Yeah.
much now, with the carbons, being a PSE dealer, I have all the PSE, carbon force arrows.
Yeah.
And when I closed my store, all the comp pros, they were in my pocket.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't sell off any of those. I just, okay, those are all mine. I'd already
Yeah.
paid for them.
Yeah.
So I kept all the comp pros. Those are 1,000 straightness, and that's all I shoot.
Yeah.
Um, you can make a difference, by doing that. But a beginner, don't waste your money on those high dollar ones, because your your
Right.
your form isn't good enough to even get there until you get your form in there where at least you're holding them in the white,
Yeah.
every shot at 20 yards. Don't even worry about getting better arrows. It's when you start
Yeah.
getting them down where now you're grouping in there. Now you're consistently grouping really tight. Now then
Yeah.
get the better, try some better quality ones, and that group will tighten up.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
that's where you're at to win like those events. Um, like we was talking about earlier, if you hit a 8-inch pie plate, you're good to go hunting. Well, when you think about it, that's depending on what yardage you're shooting at.
Yeah.
Because as you don't know, if it's at 25 and you think it's 15, that 8-inch circle is now ends up being what, a 10 or 12-inch circle, which
Yeah.
means you have a wounded animal you can't consistently hit. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why, when I was doing, testing for the for kids to before they get their hunting permit, the training you have to go through. I put up a 6-inch plate, and if they didn't at least hit that every time, they weren't even considered good enough, even though the requirements was a little bit looser than that. Like, no, you
Hmm.
got to have this smaller circle, and a lot of times I'd put up a 5-spot, and it's like, well, you have to keep all of them in the white, otherwise I'm
Yeah.
not going to pass you.
Right.
Because being off, you know, I'm off by about between 50, for me, shooting at 70 pounds, between 20 and 10 yards was an inch already.
Yeah.
And if you cut down to 60 pounds, now then that's even more. And if you're shooting
Yeah.
50 pounds, now you might be off by 2, 3 inches just by being off by 10 yards. And what's 5 yards
Yeah.
do? And how
Yeah.
do you judge that yardage? And, that's where I prefer the unknown yardages for 3Ds. I don't
Yes.
like the marked yardages. I want them out because I'm a hunter and I would need to learn to judge yardage. So that's how I do that. And I
Yep.
shoot spots to develop my skill to know that if I put my
Yeah.
pin here, I'm going to hit what I'm aiming at.
Yep.
And, so there's kind of both. I'm not really fond at target shoots.
Hmm.
They don't really do anything for me.
Yeah.
Um, some like them, some don't. I just never was
Yeah.
really fond of those things. You go and I just shoot that to get better. And then
Yeah.
where I had fun was on the 3D shoots. And,
Hmm.
I started off with the 3D shoot. I was wondering if I had enough arrows to finish all 40
Yeah.
targets. When you've
Yeah.
gone through 4 targets, you're already down an arrow, and you only
Yeah.
got like 6 arrows in your quiver. It's like, can I
Yeah.
make all 40 targets?
Yeah.
And
Panic
then
sets in. Yeah.
yeah, you're going through, and then you get a little bit better, and then finally it's like, okay, can I shoot all 40 with the same arrow?
Right.
You shoot the same arrow at all of them, and then you go in, and now you expect to hit every target because your yardage judging is better, and learn how to judge yardage up hills, down hills, straightaways.
Yep.
Where's your arrow flying in mid-flight? If there's a branch at 10 yards that covers the kill, where is that going to be at? Where you're at?
Yeah.
And up close and far away, and
Right.
you know that's that's the part that's, I think, is the fun part, is shooting all those unknown yardages.
Yeah. Yeah. And when Grayson first started shooting this stuff with me, I took him to a couple ASAs, and we were kind of just feeling our way around. And again, like with the staff positions, I was trying to go as much as I could and support the people that were supporting me and showing, the equipment or whatever. And we shot some ASA stuff, which is they have known classes, and he shot known, and I did too. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. And I struggled with the IBO side of it only because of the unknown. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you walk up and if you're not good at it, like a 25 yard, your target could look 20 yards to you, or it could look 30. So then you're either, super low or super high. And then it kind of like um deters you. You know what I mean? It's, you know,
Right.
you walk up and you shoot a bad shot, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, maybe this isn't for me. And at first that was kind of my thought, and I was kind of ready to kind of walk away from the IBO. And as much as I hate to say it now, because I'm actually going to be doing some work and doing some representing for them here coming up next year maybe. But when he came into it, and I was just starting to like learn more about it, and talking to some friends of mine and some pros that I have met through working with different companies, and you start to realize that part of the fun of shooting unknown archery is the challenge of how close can I get. Like, if it's a 32-yard target and you shoot it for 30 yards, you're probably still going to be in the 10 ring for the most part. You know what I mean? But the idea of looking at a target that you don't know how far away it is and say, okay, like a 10 is okay, but I want that inch-and-a-half circle in the middle. Like I want that 11 ring. So now I've got to be technically within a yard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that challenge for somebody that's challenge oriented, like really fuels the fire. Um, and that's what got me back into it, into the unknown side of it. Was like trying to find a way, because there's so many ways, and you shoot 3D, I assume,
Right.
a little bit, and other people do too, and trying to find your way of doing it. Then the cool thing with archery for me, as you know, is there's a textbook idea of what you should do to shoot. You feet under your shoulders, shoulder width, whatever, parallel, you know,
Yeah.
elbows point in certain directions. But at that point, like everybody's different. If you looked at me right now, you would say, well, you're a 28-inch draw. I know that because everybody I've ever talked to ever says, hey, Eric, you're a 28-inch draw. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm a 29.5-inch draw. But it's because my upper body is different than my lower body. I'm waist high, tall, if that makes sense. Like my legs are short.
Yeah.
So from my waist up is taller than most other people that are 5'10", but their legs are longer. So that changes the upper geometry of your body, which changes your draw length. You know what I mean?
Right.
So then that's what makes it different for me, which for you, I'm assuming your draw length is probably 29.5 or 30. I'm guessing you look like you're a pretty tall
29
guy.
and a half, but I shoot 29.
Okay. Yeah. So exactly. So that's what's comfortable for you. And that's the thing about this sport that's so cool is um, it's not the same for everybody. What works for me doesn't work for you. And I think we talked about this before.
Right.
But the judging part of it, like some people do well, this is, that tree branch is halfway. So if I think that's 15 yards. So if I double it, that's 30. Or, some people do I call it the bob and weave, where they just rock back and forth and they find the center point, or some people can just look at a target and they're like a walking rangefinder, and they can tell you, oh, that's 32.5 yards. I don't know how they do it. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? My goal is if I can get within 5. You know what I mean? If I can look at a target and I can say, well, from here to here, my guaranteed first call is 20 yards. I can usually pick 20 out. And then I go from there, well, okay, so that's 20. So that next piece of grass or that next tree branch is maybe 3 more yards. So that's 23, 27, 28. It targets, it's between 30 and 35. And that's pretty much where I stop. But that's how I do it. You know what I mean? Grayson walks out, picks his head up, looks at the target, and says, that target's 32 yards. I'm like, how did you do that? He's like, I just looked at it. I just thought that's the number that popped in my head. And he's within a yard. I can if I look at that target, I'm telling you right now it's 50 because I don't know. I can't do it. And that's one of those things where you have to learn your process.
Right.
Like so, Roy, when you go to a 3D shoot, how do you range? How do you judge?
Well, if it's on the flat, then I kind of judge, going, okay, 20, 30, 40,
Mm-hmm.
whatever there. If it's up a hill or down a hill, then I look at where the target is and I come straight up at the horizontal and judge that
Mm-hmm.
distance
Yep.
because the down angle doesn't matter.
Right.
I've told this story, several times, but I had a trail I was on top of a hill on a ladder stand, and the trail was horizontally 20 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
Because I looked at it, I followed, I ranged at it 20 yards. A deer come walking down that trail. I just swore that deer would have run 50 or 60 yards away because it was so small. Because as high as I was, 20 yards away,
Mm-hmm.
down at a 45 or better angle, that deer looked really small.
Yeah.
Well, I knew it was 20 yards away. So I shot it at 20 yards and I killed it,
Yeah.
with my shot because I shot it for
Yep.
20. The
Yep.
horizontal distance is the only thing that counts. Vertical
Yes, it
does
is.
not matter because gravity works horizontally, not vertical.
Yeah. And it's hard to
So,
do that. At home we've got a local club that does a Thursday night league shoot, and they do 11 targets, and you drop your worst score. So your score is your top 10 scores, which is great. It's a lot of fun. But
yeah,
there's is a target, and they always set it up, and it's always a cinnamon bear, and it's always downhill, and I always spine it because I ground judge, which is how I judge, but I ground
right.
judge down the hill instead of doing what I know to do, which is what you said. Looks, find a tree beside it, come up to that tree. Now judge my distance from here to that tree. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
from here to a tree that I know is 20 yards away, and then that tree is another 5 yards cattywampus or whatever away from it. So, it's only 25 yards or 26. I shoot it for 34 because I'm going down the hill and I'm measuring like a tape measure down the hill. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And every time I do it, and every time, I'm like, I know better. Why do I do that? And it's because you get in that autopilot thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And like you was talking about, draw length, one of the guys that worked for me, he was taller than I was by 2, 3 inches.
mm-hmm.
He had a 27.5 inch draw length. His arms were short, even though he was tall,
Yeah,
everything was tall except his arms were short.
yeah, yep,
So yeah, like you from the waist down is a little shorter, so you get a little bit longer draw length because the shoulder width is in arm length is longer. And
yeah,
for him, his shoulder width was wide, but his arms were short.
yeah,
You know, so it's just each person's a little bit different, and how you set them up is a little different, and you
yeah.
have to go through and that's the fun of it is trying to figure out what works best for you. And for him,
Oh,
a shorter axle bow would work for me. At
yeah,
my draw length, I don't like the short ones because that
right.
angle, that string is so sharp, I can't
Yep,
see through the peep. It's so far away. I need to have it closer to my eye, so I got to have those 36, 38 inch axles. And
yeah,
sometimes it's kind of hard to get them the new bows. They want to be 32s, 34s,
yeah,
and I I just don't like
yeah,
shooting those because they're so short.
yeah. How
Because
tall are
I
you?
5'9".
Okay, yeah, yep, yeah. I'm 5'10", so yeah. But yeah, like the bow I'm shooting right now it's a sequel 33. It's a 33 inches axle to axle, but the string angle is it's almost ideal. I shoot a lot of target bows, and I like in the 37, 38 range. But this bow, the string angle is a little steep. Um, but so I know what you're saying. Like with the new, everybody, the new craze is 29.5 inch axle to axle hunting bow. If you can shoot it, that's great. You know what I mean? It's not for me as much as
They're
I
not
think
as
it would be. I
stable.
don't hunt. Yeah, no, they're not as stable, but they're to get in the woods and get in tight spots. I understand. I mean, I understand the concept, and they have their purpose. Their
Right.
purpose for me isn't necessarily on a 3D range, but um, if you're a hunter and you hunt in very thick stuff or in a tree where you have very little clearance, then it makes perfect sense for
Right.
that. You know, so
Well, each bow has a where it excels at, and
Yeah.
crossbows, there's points where they excel at.
Yes.
Uh,
100%.
you get somebody that, like the younger kids that can't pull a lot of weight.
Hmm.
Like your son's 12 years old now, doing all the
Yeah.
shooting, he might be pulling a bit more weight, but what kind of weight's he pulling now?
Well, right now his class, he's shooting cub class. This was his last year, so he's a max poundage he's allowed is 40 pounds,
Okay.
which is still a good amount of weight. He can
Right.
shoot. He can shoot 52. He's got a bow at home that he shoots that he just got, and it's set at 52 that he plays around with a little bit, and he can shoot it pretty comfortably. So I think once this season's over, he's going to go to more poundage, and I feel pretty confident by um, the time next season comes in, he'll be in that 55, 56 range.
And
So,
that's a good weight. You know,
oh, it's a great weight.
if you
Yeah,
want to get a kid out, like hunting, and they're young, a lot of times they can't pull enough weight in order to be legal.
yes,
When you get your 10, 11 year olds, 8, 8, 10, 12 year olds, some of them can't pull a lot of weight because they don't shoot like your son did. And that's
yeah,
where a
right,
crossbow
yeah,
can be perfect. It gets them out
yeah,
in the field during archery. Some states they
hmm,
consider it archery. Nebraska didn't used to, but now they consider it irregular
yeah,
archery equipment. They used to consider only if you couldn't physically, your handicap, and where you couldn't draw and hold a recurve or a
yeah,
longbow or compound. Now they've
yeah,
moved it; it's just regular archery equipment.
yeah,
Or somebody as you get older, you can't pull the weight anymore,
yeah,
so that keeps you in the field earlier and longer.
yeah,
Um, and if somebody wants to start off in archery, if they can get ready to hunt with a crossbow in a matter of hours.
yeah,
To hunt with a compound, it might take weeks
months.
or
Yeah,
months to get
yeah,
them good enough to hunt with one. So,
100%.
there's times when it really comes up and it plays a vital role. Um, and somebody that doesn't have much time to practice,
Hmm.
hey, get the crossbow because you don't need the practice that you do with the compound or even recurves or longbows. Those take even more practice.
Yeah,
That's why I don't hunt with mine because I don't take the time to get good enough that I would want to hunt with it.
yeah,
Mine's set up for bow
yeah,
fishing because if I miss, who
yeah,
cares? I just reel
perfect.
it in
Yeah,
and shoot again.
yeah, right, absolutely. Cool,
So
cool.
yeah, that's a lot of fun going out and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I can't wait till I can get back and start shooting my bow again.
yeah.
I
How's that going?
Well, right now I'm still trying to heal up from my triple bypass I had in April, and then
Yeah.
it didn't heal because I think I probably kind of pushed it too much too quick, and it didn't heal. So then I go back and put some plates in, and now I'm 2 weeks
Oh,
out of that, and I gotta wait. I'm gonna have to wait probably another 10 weeks so everything heals up okay before I can even think about drawing a bow back.
oh man, yeah.
So yeah. Um,
It's all
so
right. Get healthy first.
oh yeah, that's what I'm doing this time. I'm taking a lot easier this time than last time, but
Yeah.
um, this one's because I had to open it back up again. This one hurts a little bit more.
Ooh,
So
yeah, I can imagine.
I'm taking my time on that. So
Yeah.
I get to talk archers, so
Yeah.
that's always a fun time.
Yeah, you can still talk about it.
Yeah.
At least part of it. You get to enjoy it
And,
a little bit somehow.
and I can still go out and teach because I don't have to shoot to teach.
Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
don't have
great.
to draw a bow back to teach how to shoot.
No, you don't. That's awesome.
So I can
Very cool.
still teach, and that's what I do, for
Yeah.
I help out with game and parks on some of their events, and I've got one coming up here next month. So I'll be, probably 6 weeks out. So I'll be okay to, run around a little bit, but I'm just teaching them how to do it. And I'm not the only one there. So, someone else can show them the draw process. And
Yeah.
the friend of mine from Christy from Nebraska Game Parks, she runs a lot of the women outdoor programs and a lot of outdoor events and stuff. And, she shows them how to shoot, and I just kind of help them. And she teaches, like we teach a lot of beginners on open stance. I teach a closed stance.
Yeah.
But if you
Okay.
do my closed stance and you don't have the right grip, you're going to smack your arm.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
So, if you grip the bow like you did a bat, you're going to hit your arm. Even if you do an
100%.
open stance, so you got to
Yeah.
get that right grip, turns that elbow out,
Yep.
clears everything, and that's why I shoot 29 inches instead of 29 and a half. Because then when the winter
Oh,
time,
yep.
have a big heavy coat on, I don't hit my
Yeah.
coat.
Yeah. Makes
I
sense.
I did that when I was before I knew any better. My draw length was too long because my
Hmm.
first bow I got, I went into the shop and she handed me this bow. I drew it back and she says, "How's that feel?" Okay. I didn't know any
Sold.
better.
Yeah.
Uh, 32 inches.
Yep.
It was a 32-inch bow. So I thought I was 32 inches. So when that one broke, then I got it actually broke in half after I shot
Oh,
one time. It broke in
it,
half.
was it an old
And
Jennings?
no, it was an
Uh,
American Challenger,
oh,
high
okay.
point bottom out. So then
Okay.
they sent me this high point, 32-inch draw length, had nothing but problems with that bow and
Yeah.
the high points. So then when I finally got my first PSE, I thought it was 32-inch, that's what I had. Well,
Yeah.
then when I went to NFA's shooter school and instructor school, they measured my draw length, says you're 29 and a half. This is a Friday night. The next class was
Hmm.
Saturday night. Your bow must be 29 and a half inches or there's no reason to come back. So now
Ugh.
I'm trying to get this 32-inch bow down to 29 and a half inches.
Oh
So
my
then I
gosh.
did that. And then it felt like it's like really short because I'm used to shooting 32. And now I'm at
Yeah.
29 and a half. So I'm,
Yeah.
2.5 inches shorter. And then once I figured out, it's like, oh, then I should have been shorter now.
Yeah.
It just feels a little better for me and
Yep.
I can push through and everything. And,
Yeah.
so then after that, then I get bows, 20 that I can go 29 and a half. And I found when I was shooting all the time, I shot better at 70 than I did at 60.
Yeah.
For some reason, when it locked me into my form better.
Yep. The holding weight
You,
of it. Yeah.
the holding weight was just enough more
Yep.
that worked. And even shoot 300 rounds. When I shoot 300 rounds, I still shot at 70 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's saying the first half was the worst half. The second half was better.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like,
It's crazy.
go figure.
Yeah.
I'm struggling more trying them back. I must be locking in tighter because I'm having
Yep.
to, it's a little bit more. And
Yeah.
that back then, your bows were all 60% let off.
Yeah.
And
Ugh.
then like you said, and then they started coming out 80, and it's like, well, that's not fair. It don't count in the record books, and then everything else,
Yeah.
and then it's like, well, they're gonna put an asterisk by it. This was done with an 80% let off, and
Yeah.
I don't think they even noted anymore.
No. No. All the bow companies, all the bows that come out anymore are 80%,
Yeah,
or have it,
uh,
or at least have the option, or 75. I think. A lot of them come out from the factory with 75, but you can go up or down usually.
yeah. Some of them, I think you can just adjust it a little bit for your let off.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. They've got some of the companies you change your draw mod altogether. Some of them, um, trying to think here, PSE and PSE has a little foot that you move out a little bit, which basically shortens your draw length just a touch,
Yeah,
but it gets you into the more holding weight a little bit. So they've got that. Matthews, of course, is a mod change. Darton has little pads that they put on their feet to do the same style thing. Trying to think here. Um, some of the other ones are like a limb stop bow, and you just move the limb stop. It's the same idea. You just shorten the draw length up a little bit to get more into the power of the where the let off is coming
yeah,
in. So, but with enough work, you can make them all. A twist here, a twist there. You can be right where you want to be. You can fine tune it pretty easy.
yeah. I know, back 20 some years ago, PC, they had your different mods with different let offs on them. You'd change the whole
Yep.
module. Because I've still
Yep.
got some left from some of the older bows.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When I
Yeah.
had the store, I had all different mods that could change them all out. And so I got lots of mods for a lot of the older bows. Um, I just keep them.
Yeah. Oh
Maybe
yeah, for
someday
sure.
say, hey, anybody got a mod, this mod for this bow? And it's like,
Right.
oh yeah,
As a matter
I
of
do.
fact, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, matter of fact, I do. And I got some not even PSE ones, some other ones for some of the older bows that I don't even know if anybody even has any of those bows anymore, but some of them are well over 25 years old, the
Yeah,
bows that they
yeah,
were on.
yeah,
But what am I going to do with them?
yeah. Well, and anymore, like I said, with the internet, you never know. Somebody might. There's people out there that are collectors, and they may not use it all the time, but they want the bow set up, so they could shoot it.
Right.
Pull it out just for fun. I went through a phase of doing that, like finding old bows and wanting to keep them because I like the way that the one I had before shot, and you know, it's fun and it's nice to be able to still find that stuff every once in a while. Somebody will want it someday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I keep them, and maybe I'll run into somebody that needs a mod. I go check. It's like, yeah, I got that mod.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
You know,
Cool,
but yeah, it's
nice.
um, it was a lot of fun, back then
Oh
because
yeah,
you had all kinds of different stuff, and somebody come in and they got this bow, and they want to do something different with
trying
it.
to
It's
think.
too much draw weight, and they don't want to get another one, and so now you're making, longer, shorter strings and cables to make it fit, and all kinds of stuff like that, and that was kind of fun in those days, doing that stuff. Because when I had my store, I started making my own strings. I went
Yeah.
down to PSC's dealer school in 2001, and they taught you how to
Hmm.
make the steel cables. Like back then, a lot of bows had steel
Oh yeah,
cables,
yeah,
and a lot of people don't realize is those cables have to be made the exact same length. So if you break one, you
yeah,
have to make two because you can't
yeah.
twist the steel cable.
No, you
About
can't
best you
tune them.
could do is like you might have a half a turn just to get the cable in there,
Yeah,
but you're not going to turn them. And when you make them,
yeah,
that's why you have to, if one breaks, you have to cut the other one so you know exactly how
yeah,
long to make it. And,
yeah,
that was kind of an art. And I've made a few of those. Pretty much it got to, many years ago, it got to the point where um, if you broke one with steel cable, it was cheaper to get a new bow. And now you
yeah.
probably can't even get the cables anymore.
Mm-mm.
Last
No,
time
I've
I
had
I
people ask me
heard,
about them.
probably 6, 7 years ago, um, they were like $100 a piece, and you got to buy two of them,
Yeah,
and you're not going to get anybody to make them for you
uh-uh.
for anything less than $300 labor.
Yeah.
Because
It's
if I
cheaper to buy a new
mess
bow.
one up, I got to buy a new one.
Yeah,
So you're going to be
yep,
spending $500 to get steel cables on
yeah,
them. Just because I wouldn't take the risk if I could find them. You might not be
yeah,
able to find two of them. Now I do, once in a while I'll come across a set of steel cables for something in my scrap box,
yeah,
from some of the old, I think some of the old PSE Nova bows that,
yep,
those were real big at steel cables, and sold lots of those. The old Dan
yeah.
Fitzgerald bows, which is the
Trying to
Nova
think when I
bow, and
first started shooting. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
oh yeah, that was some of the old Dan Fitzgerald bows and the Nova bows. Those were all the same bow, just they put his name on it, and I sold lots of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. I had some friends that shot PSCs when I was shooting, 25 whatever years ago, and the one guy had regular string and cable material on it, and the other guy had one that had steel cables on it, and it was for them to be the same bow and um, shoot so differently and sound so different was pretty crazy.
Oh yeah.
He actually ended up building a custom set of strings and cables and switching it over from the old steel to the regular, like at that time the fast flight and I
Right.
think it was the 450 string material was coming out, and to switch it over to that, and it was tunable.
Yeah, 'cause you can't tune anything with steel cables on it.
No, it's where it is. Too bad. Yeah,
Yeah, it is what it
yeah,
is. And
yes, sir.
um, I know there's people will take those, and they'll put whatever cams on them, and they'll figure out what length strings and cables to make for them, and keep them going. But the only reason to do that now, anything like that, would be because it has a sentimental value, his dad's or grandpa's bow or something, and
Yep.
and they wanted to, have it because of that.
Yeah.
Um, I know I have my very first recurve bow. It's a Ben Pearson fiberglass, 25 pound.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I taped a bracket on it for bow fishing. I can't even get my hand in anymore because my hand was so small. Because that was like
Yeah.
in the 60s. I
Yeah.
was like 10, 12 years old. And I still have it. There's still the string on it from the last time I strung it. But I won't string it because I know last time the little bit of fiberglass is starting to degrade on there. And so I
Yeah.
won't string it up, but I still have it.
Yeah.
It's from the
Yeah.
60s.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
it has no value to anything but me because it's
Correct.
mine.
And yep.
My
Yep.
first
I
bow.
have a 96 Hoyt Oasis that I ordered custom the way I wanted it. You know what I mean? I wanted it at that time. Hoyt was doing some pretty crazy anodizing stuff. You probably remember it. This would have been, yeah, like I said, 96. And it was white and it looked like oil spot black. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
They did that with a lot of their colors. And I ordered it that way with the Meridian limbs and the round wheels. And that was going to be my indoor bow. And I still have it. And like you said, it's probably to somebody off the street, it's probably not worth the cardboard box that I could ship it to them in. But that was my first bow that I ordered exactly the way I wanted it. It wasn't one off the shelf that somebody had sitting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I went in, checked the boxes on the paper form, they mailed it in or whatever, called it in, and 6 weeks later it showed up. And it's just one of those cool things. Like I said, I show it to my kids every once in a while, and I'm like, this is what we used to shoot. It was 48 inches axle to axle. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Or
They were long, weren't
huge.
they?
Yeah, they were. And to see how far they've come is kind of why I showed him. I mean, like this is your target bow, and it's 38 inches axle to axle, and everybody's losing their mind over how long it is at 38 inches. I'm like, when I used to shoot, a 36-inch bow was a short hunting bow. You know, in
Right.
the
Yeah.
90s, that was a short bow. My target bow was 48 inches, and he's like, no way. Yeah, they used to be in the 50s, way back.
Yeah.
You know, you could almost lean on one. Use it for an arm brace. So,
Yeah.
but
They've come a long ways, and that how far do you want to keep up with, you know, the new
yeah,
technology? And
yeah,
me, my hunting bow's a 2001 PSE Career, and my
yeah,
Scorpion is a 2002, I think it is, or
yeah,
2003. I
yeah.
forget which one it is now. And it's kind of weird that PSE come out with that one. It was
Uh-huh.
the single cam,
Yep.
and then the next year they changed it to a two cam, and then the next year they dropped it.
Yeah. Yep.
So when I wanted to make a string, I only had two of the three numbers that I needed. Because, or no, the other way around. The new one, the latest ones with the single cam, mine was the two cam because I needed
Okay.
three. I spaced the Y cable and the control cable and the string.
Yeah.
And they're on their website, they didn't list that one. So I got a hold of them and says, okay, sent my serial number, and they sent me back the information for all the sides of the string because
Yeah.
I didn't want to go off of the length that it was because yeah, they'd
Who
stretched.
knows? Yeah. 100%. Right.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to do
You
that.
want to have good specs. So yeah, good call.
Yeah, so at least I know where it was supposed to be when it started. And
Yep.
and
Yeah.
and, and making strings is kind of an art. It's like, okay, how long do I make it? Because it's going to stretch.
Right.
And how much can I twist it back? And
Yeah.
I don't generally, post stretch my strings because the way I
Yeah.
make them, I when I do two colors, I'll tie a knot, and then when I get down to the third one, I'll tie another knot. So it's a continuous loop. So I can put the same
Yeah.
amount of pressure on each strand. Because
Yep.
if you don't, you may have different. If you cut them separately, so
Yeah.
that each color's tied together, they may not
Yeah.
be the exact same length. And that way they're in there. And then I put a lot of pressure on them, so you can kind of pluck them and they kind of ring when
Yeah.
I'm making them. I force
Yep.
them out really tight to make all the strands the same. And
Yep.
then I will serve the end loops on both of them. And then once I've done that, at least on one end, then I'll twist it. Now
Yeah.
everything's twisted underneath the serving, and then I can twist it to where I want it. And now then I'll serve over the ends and do them and then do the middle. So I've
Yeah.
got my strings twisted inside, and some
Yeah.
of them that just overlap them, you have to stretch them afterwards because you got to stretch all those, eventually work them out the same. And that's why
Yeah.
some of your strings will actually stretch on you when you first
Yeah.
you have to break them in.
Yep.
I've never had to break it in mine in because I've already basically broke them in.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
I
Yeah.
I don't make a lot of strings anymore because I don't have a shop anymore. But
Right.
I used to make strings. I stocked almost no strings. In fact, the
Yeah.
strings I had on hand, I probably still have every one of them because, you get a string, it's only works on one bow or two bows,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I just made them in less than an hour. I could have you a new string.
Yeah.
So
100%. Yep.
it
Yep.
it didn't do it. I did at one time. A guy calls me up not too long before we closed. Is like, because he knew I made strings. Says, "Do you have a string? Can you make me a string for my bow?" And I says, "Well, I'm closing in a half hour." It's like, "Well, I have a tournament tomorrow, and I need a new string. So come
Yeah.
on in."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so he come in just after we closed, and then of course that happens. I locked the doors so that nobody else comes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was on a Darton, I think it was.
Yeah.
And the Dartons have a little skinnier track than most
Yeah.
camps. So I was like, and I knew that. So I wasn't sure exactly how many strands were going to fit on it. So, like it's 14 to 6 or 12 to 16, I'll do it 14. I'll do them in the middle.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so I made one and then I got it on there. It was going to be too fat. So then I threw that away. You
Yeah.
can't take them off. It's just quicker to throw them away and
Yep.
cheaper. So I made another one and got it all done, got it on the bow, and then he had to go shoot it. And it wasn't even an hour, and he's walking out of it with a new string that he needed.
Yeah.
And and I basically made one and a half strings,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you have to do the end, you have to do the loop and you have to serve it because you need to know how it fits in there. So I'd already
Yeah.
served one end of it, and like, no, too fat, not going to
All
work.
right.
Away,
Yeah.
start again.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about it. And I had one where I'd instead of normally you twist them,
Uh-huh.
well, instead I took the two loops and I moved them inside, twisted them inside of each other, so it
Uh-huh.
twists each side. You put them back together, and they form little V's.
Oh.
And I'd made one for a friend of mine with like green and red, and then he put on a bow, ended up getting stolen, and it showed up one of the shops, and somebody seen it, is
Oh.
like, "That's Randy's bow," and it's sure
Yeah.
enough, it was.
Yeah.
The person that stole it traded to somebody else for something owed him, and then he, not
Yeah.
knowing, he brought it in the shop, so he got his bow back
Yeah.
because
Yep.
nobody had strings that form V's.
Yeah.
And then I'd made one for another guy for his wife's bow, and he calls me one time. It's like, "How did you make that string?" My wife wants another one, and he had the stuff to make strings, and it's like, she wants that same style of string, and I'd forgot I even made it for her.
Yeah.
And so I actually created a video on how to do that, and then so he
Yeah.
could go off and make her a string. But I
That's
took on
cool.
one of my bows, I did three colors and
Uh-huh.
twisted, and then did like your braiding, over and under,
Yeah.
over and under. So I had three colors and I braided them that way, and that made kind of a flat string, and then you
Yeah.
twist it, and it
Yeah.
was kind of cool. I had that bow for several years, and then it
Yeah.
finally broke one
Yeah.
wintertime or
Crazy.
summertime.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I've been pretty lucky with strings. Um, like you were saying with the break and stuff. I got on with a good string company, and they make them. I don't have to worry about them too much. So they've been with me since I came back to shoot, and they've been with me doing it. So it's cool to have that kind of that you came up with your own technology, to get that right. So
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, the longer the string, the more it's going to stretch. But the way I do them, where it's a
yeah,
continuous strand, and
yeah,
that's kind of the fine point. Is, okay, how short do I have to make this because it's going to stretch longer, and then how much can I twist it back to get it to that
yep,
right length?
yeah,
And pretty much about a half, about a half a twist per inch or somewhere around in there. So you're gonna, if I got a 52-inch string, I'm gonna, do 25 or 26 twists,
yeah,
and you start from there, and then you go up and down, and it takes a little practice to figure out how to get them so the colors stay together instead of intermixing,
yes,
as you're
yep,
twisting them. And what I found is the best way to do it is you got to get the one end served, and then you kind of separate them out so they stay separate, and then and then just keep twisting them and twisting them until you get it there. And then the last one, you know, if you got to twist it, now you got to pull it out and separate it to do the end loop and then let it twist
Oh
back
yeah.
and serve
Yep.
over them. And you can serve one way, which kind of untwist the strings. You got it other way, you twist it, and it actually keep twisting them. And you know,
Yeah.
I try not to twist them with when I'm serving them, just because that puts extra twist in them. But there's just
Yeah.
all kinds of ways you can do them and unique colors. That's where I use 8125 um,
Okay.
is what I use. I've been using that for years, and I probably won't switch to anything else because I got too many spools of it. You, you know, those great big spools, you know,
Yeah.
I think you can make 20 or 30 strings out of one of the spools.
Sure.
And I've got dozens of different colors. And then I have the B500, which is used for recurves.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I've got plenty of colors.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'll
Oh
find some
yeah.
that's not 8125 when I'm doing like little demo strings and stuff. I had
Sure.
a bunch of
Sure.
them made up.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I've my strings. Most of my strings are. It's a. They're made by
punchless.
Rogue, and they use their own proprietary blend, but it's based off of, I think it's a 452X material.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good material. And I got a whole
Yeah.
bunch of different samples I was doing when I was doing some stuff. I just like different samples, you know,
Oh yeah.
of pink and fluorescent green,
Yep.
uh, blue and copper,
Yep.
um,
That's a good looking one there.
you know, maroon and mountain berry.
Yep.
Um, I got I actually made a string for a bow on that. This one here is like three different colors,
Okay.
tan, green, and mountain berry, just for different
Hmm.
ones. When I had my store, this guy from um, Israel come over. He'd come in the
Oh.
States all the time and he wanted a bow, so I ordered him a target bow, and it was kind of in the kind of maroon colored bow, the target bow, and the draw length we needed they didn't have. So we kind of big okay, send me the bow, and then eventually sent me the right cams to do that, and then I was waiting on strings, and so I just made him new strings. You know,
Yeah.
I think it was silver and mountain berry or something. I forget which two colors I use now because it matched the bow. And instead of being the black and white one, at that time the PSC strings, the black and white ones were junk.
Yeah.
They had never stopped moving.
Yep.
So, well, in fact, one of my staff shooters, Randy, he wouldn't even shoot a bow until I put a new string on it.
Yeah.
Brand new bow, take that
Yep.
original one off, throw it away, new strings and cables. So,
Yep.
and because I needed a different string to get the draw length I needed, and I was like, okay, this looks terrible. Black and white cables with the other cool looking string. So I made the cables and everything and then put it in there. And you know, going back over there, you know, if it come in as a new bow, he was gonna have to pay 25% tax on it for coming in. Well, it was already his bow. I just did warranty work on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, I was doing so I wrote it up as warranty work. So
Yeah.
when they took it back, it was, you know, it wasn't a new bow
No.
because in the box, if they looked at it, it had the other stuff in it, the old cables and old
Yeah.
modules or old cables and cams.
Yep.
So if he ever decided to sell it, he had, you know, the other stuff in there.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure. Oh
they were
yeah.
new
Absolutely.
strings, so they'd never been shot. So then he
Yeah.
had somebody took it back over and put it in a case and took it back
Yeah.
over, and so that was kind of interesting because it, you know, you make it, you can make them match the bow, and
Oh
he'll
yeah.
come in and want a string, and it's like, well, what color? Oh, black. No, you
Yeah.
don't get black. You can't have black.
Uh-huh.
Now, if their
Mm.
bow is all black, I'd see why you want it. No,
Yeah.
that's boring. So pick a
Yeah.
different color or two
Yeah.
colors. You know, what's your
Yeah.
two
Make it your
favorite
own.
colors? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Customize it. And the same thing I did with fletching. You know, I did feathers or
Oh yeah.
veins because that's most of
Yep.
what I did was feathers and veins because I bought no arrows, only shafts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we're going to cut them to your length. And what colors you want?
Yeah.
Pick them. Pick
Yeah.
your two favorite colors. That's what we do about it. It just cost more for feathers than it did for
Yeah.
veins because it cost me more. It took a
Yeah.
little bit longer to make because you couldn't stick them on and then turn them with feathers. You had to let them actually cure before you could turn them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I had 12 BPEs and I had a Jojen and I had 8 Bitzenbergers that I was fletching with. So I had plenty of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah, well, and again, like this with the sport, like you got to make it your own stuff. You got to, it has to be you. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's an extension of your personality and you know, your energy, I guess is the best way I could put it. Like I do a lot of a natural string material because I worry. So like the natural string material, as you know, it has less wax in it, so the heat doesn't affect it.
Right.
So like this weekend it was 91 degrees today, standing outside in the sun. Well, the heat, it affects everything, but it doesn't affect my strings as much as somebody that's shooting a bright red string or a teal green or whatever. You know what I mean? They don't have the dyes and the wax built worked into the string material. So it's one of those things. So you got to make it your own deal. Like you said, you don't get black. That's boring.
Yeah, you don't
Let's
get
let's
black.
do something fun. Yeah. We
Now, if
I
your
shoot.
bow is black, your cams are black, your limbs are black, or your accessory are black, then I say, okay, we'll put a black string on there.
Yeah, and yeah,
Just
for me,
because the scheme is
that's all the
black.
more
But
reason. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
If it's all black, everything matches black, just like everything matches blue jeans. So you put any color you want to on it. I'd have been fluorescent pink, or you know,
yeah,
um, you know, fluorescent green, or yeah, I think that's the color. Something like that, teal, because it matches it. Who cares? Go for it.
yeah. Like this string, the people listening, you can't see it, but that's a fluorescent pink and a fluorescent green on
Yeah,
the
great
string.
colors. Yep.
And of course I did a blue for the center serving, and I
Yeah.
didn't serve the loops on because they're so short. These were just test
Yeah.
colors, so I just put
Yeah.
anything on them.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to see when I was making new strings for bow, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a whole bunch of samples and say, oh, which colors everybody like the best, you know?
Yeah. This is what it'll look like, right?
Yeah,
Well, like
that's what
here,
it
I
looked
could
like.
I can show you. I have my bow here now. Here, see if I can get it over here. I don't know if you can see it. Like
Oh yeah, looks
it's
like orange.
yeah, flow orange, and then it's natural here. See? So
Oh yeah, just a white string.
yeah, yeah, that's all the natural is it's there's no dye in it. There's no heavy waxes in it. It's almost white. It's like an off-white eggshell.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? So, and I put different color servings on them, and that's my personality. You know what I mean? Depending on the bow is depending on what it gets. I've got another bow that's the same basic color as this, and it has drab green servings on it because that's what that bow needed to have. That was the personality or the look I was going for, was a stealthy kind of camo look. And it's like I'm getting some neighbors. Um, so that's kind of, I'm a very personality oriented, in case you couldn't tell by my
yeah.
my cover here. I like to be a little bit different and a little bit out there. I like to have some fun. So um, that's again, like you said, that's another nice thing. You can kind of make it your own and be your own person in it. So
Yeah, make it personal. That that's why when you fletching arrows, like you go to a place that has them already made up. Well, you get the color fletching that they ordered in when they come in, and they made them however they made them.
yeah,
They might have a bunch of green and orange, so now they're fletching green and orange. You run out of green, now you got orange. Well, now they might get in white. So you
yeah,
never know, and that's where when I had 3 and 4 inch vanes and 4 and 5 inch feathers. The
yeah,
5 inch, a lot of traditionals would shoot the 5 inch, and I'd shoot
yep,
4 inch.
yep,
I didn't have a lot of them shoot feathers, but I had a few. Um, Mostly I shoot feathers, so I made sure I had feathers.
yeah,
And then 3 and 4 inch vanes, and you come in and what color scheme you want. And
yeah,
you know, for hunters, the best colors to have was 2 pink feathers or two
yeah,
pink vanes, because
yeah,
nothing in the forest is pink.
yeah, yeah,
Th-
100%. They
th-
can find them. Yep,
They can find them. Now, what I
yep,
would do is I had some wraps that were a fluorescent white.
uh
So
huh,
the reflect off like your roads, the white on there
yeah,
would reflect like that.
yeah,
And normally they're like six. I'd cut them in half and I'd fletch it and I put it down below the fletching, and be
yeah,
amazed at how well that stands up to these these new
oh yeah,
lights. I
yeah,
found one underneath an evergreen tree that it went through the deer, and I found out just by finding, oh, there it is. I had to climb on my knees to find it, to get to
Sure.
it because it was buried underneath an evergreen tree. I'd never found it without that strip on
No.
there. So all my
Mm-mm.
hunting arrows have that fluorescent white strip on it.
Yeah.
I had one guy had put an orange one on, and then two orange feathers, and I forget what other color feather.
Yeah.
Those were bright
Yeah.
orange. A lot of
Yep.
orange on those. He put the
Yeah.
full 6-inch strip on it, and I fletched over the top of them, and
Hmm.
that's what he wanted, so that's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I like orange a lot. My arrows that I'm shooting this weekend are bright orange, flex fletch veins. They're like street cone orange, bright.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You can see those things from, well, like my phone case. You can see
oh
they're
yeah,
almost the same color. So yeah.
yeah, like a hunter orange.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Very much like that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and somebody that that likes to shoot at your knocks, if they're shooting at the orange fletching, they're not going to hit where they want to shoot it because they're aiming wrong
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah. Right. Well, in the way I look at it, and I spent some time with a coach a couple years back, and the way he told me is when you're shooting well, your arrows are in the middle, which is great. The problem is if I shoot first and my arrow's in the middle, now you have to aim off of my arrow to still be able to get in the middle. Well, it's near impossible to aim off of something that is glowing orange and a black target.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Your pin, like you push off and your eye is attracted to it. So therefore your pin's attracted to it. It's a mental game thing. It is what it
oh
is.
yeah,
It's nothing dirty. Everybody does it, but there's two sides of it. Some people shoot blacked out everything so you can't see it, or you shoot whatever you want. And my theory is I don't care if you can see my arrow. You know what I mean? Oh, I hope you can. I hope it helps. You know what I mean? It's
you you want to be able to find
yeah.
your arrow if you miss the target.
Well, I'm an instant gratification guy. So when my arrow hits the target, I want to know, did I hit where I was aiming? Am I close? And I don't want to stand there for 10 minutes looking at a black target with a black arrow, being like, is that my arrow? Or is that just a body line? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. I know pretty much as soon as my bow goes off where my arrow is. So
yeah, because you're looking, you see it hit the target.
yeah, yeah. And it's and it is what it is. If it's a bad shot, I know right away. There's no, you know, high hopes of it being good and then getting down there and being like, why is my arrow in his butt? You know what I mean? Like, how did it get back there? I
Yeah.
know, and then I can process it and I'm done by the time it's time to score. So not that I do that very often, but it has happened,
Oh
you know.
yeah, it's going to happen,
Yeah.
once in a while, just hopefully not too often. And if you do,
No.
you know what you did wrong, and
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
okay, I kind of lost focus just before I shot. I started thinking about something else, and
Yeah.
if you're not looking where you want the arrow to go, you're not going to hit except where you're
Or,
looking.
I did it 2 weeks ago at a local shoot. Um, or it was last weekend at a local shoot. I was standing in the bright sun shooting into a dark hole on an alligator.
Oh yeah,
I shoot a 5 power lens, and when I drew back and tried, I couldn't find it. I couldn't even find the target. I drew back on it 4 times and finally saw what I thought was the core line and shot, and it wasn't the core line. You know, it was actually the backside of the animal that was shaped like a core line, and I shot and I hit it pretty square right in the butt. At least I hit it, so that was a good thing.
well, yeah. At least you got 5 points out
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, 100%. I didn't bounce it off a tree or wreck an arrow or anything. So
Yeah, I know I've had times like that where you had a dark animal in the dark, you're standing, in the light, and you just
yeah.
can't see them very well.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah.
And I don't use any magnification, so that makes it sometimes worse.
It does make it worse. When you have a lens, it magnifies everything, including darkness. So
Yeah, I don't know, I just haven't. I tried one time and didn't really care for it, but
yeah.
now my
Oh
eyes
yeah.
are getting older. I might need to. because
Yeah.
I don't see the target very well anymore. So I
Yeah.
might need to do
Yeah.
something
I've
different.
thought about taking it out, but yeah, it's not for everybody.
Well, and I don't shoot the long shots anymore because it's a little hard for me to see them, those
Yeah.
longer shots. So I just don't really take them. When I go hunt, I set up for, you know, generally I try to set up for 20, but I keep them 30 or under,
Yeah.
to where I think they might come out, just
Yeah.
because I don't want to take those longer shots. Uh, I have, but
Yeah.
my first deer was at 40 yards, about
Oh,
20
yeah.
feet up in a tree with a 52-pound bow,
Yeah.
with 2117s full length, which
Yeah.
is like what 34-inch arrow. So it's
Oh,
with a
yeah.
145 grain tip and slow bow, long distance. I shot that deer turned around and my arrow was hanging out about 30 inches. I think the fletching stopped it from going out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it's like, cool. And then it
Yeah.
run off, and then first time tracking, so I want to track it through all the tall grass. And guy I was with, he
Right.
went up, he found it later. It's like I still want to track it because I want to learn how to track. So I
Yeah.
tracked it over to it, and I knew I wasn't going to lose it because he had already found it, but he just
Yeah.
went up where it run down, and it, since then I've done quite a few more trackings. Your first one, you want to track it as far as you can. So I found the
Sure.
arrow because it pulled out when it got into tall grass. The broadhead caught and pulled it out, and so
Yeah.
you don't need these fast bows.
No.
Sometimes the slower ones are actually better.
Yeah.
What I have found on bows, the shorter they get, the less stable they are, the harder it is to shoot. The faster they get, the quicker it magnifies your mistakes,
Yes.
and the more it magnifies them. So if you
Yes.
want a forgiving bow, you want a long axle and a slower bow.
Yep.
And especially using fixed blades. At some point, those fixed blades are next to impossible to get tuned to
Yes.
fly good, just because
Yes.
they're so
Especially when you
fast.
get at maximum speeds.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
my 2001 PSE career is rated at 320 feet per second.
Yeah.
And even now, that's still a real fast bow.
Sure.
Now, I don't shoot anywhere near that. I'm probably about 270, 260,
Hmm.
270, because I am shooting 70 pounds, but I have a loop, I have a peep, I have a kisser button on it. I
Sure.
have string leeches on the strings and the cables to quiet them
Yeah.
down. Um, I have, um, I put a loop on it. So I've got all this stuff on here, but it actually quiets it down because those older bows were fairly loud. So I want them a little bit quieter. And so that it slows it down. I'm not shooting a 350 grain arrow. My target arrows are like four something. Um, my target arrows are quite a bit lighter, but my hunting arrows are a little bit heavier.
Yeah.
And it was
Well,
that's kind of
you want
weird.
that mass weight for hunting for sure.
Well, and it wasn't that I wanted the mass weight. Uh, PSE come out with when I had my store, probably 2002, I think it was something like that. What they called the hunter shaft, a 7,000
Uh-huh.
straight in a shaft. So I ordered in a dozen of them or two, I forget, just to try them out to see what they were like. And they did not, I could group X rings with my other arrows. I could keep them in the white
Yeah.
with the 7,000s. That's the difference between 1 inch circle as opposed to 3 inch circle. And when they come in, they're supposed to be a 300 spine. Now PSC goes 100, 200, 300, 400 is the stiffest spine. Everybody else goes the opposite direction, but PSC, the bigger the number, the stiffer the spine. They come in at 400 spine. They're marked 300, which meant they're a heavier shaft. So when I went to make up some new ones, it's like, why are these so much lighter? So I had some weight tubes. So I was adding weight tubes in my other ones to get them the same weight because I didn't want to redo all my pins.
Yeah.
So my hunting arrows are actually a little heavier than my target ones. Those are at about 370 grains. So
Yeah.
they're kind of pushing the low end.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking for quite a while now. I
I told
imagine
you,
you get
I'm good at it. I
that's
could keep
okay.
going. Yeah,
That's okay.
yeah,
I've had some. We actually took one was over 3 hours long. We just got talking and just lost all track
yeah,
of time
yeah.
and
Sure.
going. There's just so many stories and um,
Uh,
I did try to keep about an hour and a half just because an
yeah,
hour is almost impossible when we get start talking about archery.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, that's something that we can talk all we want and we can even get back on and maybe get your son on here talk about his story
that would be
shooting. That
great.
would be
He would love
another
that.
one. After you get done with this shoot, then maybe let's schedule time, get your son on here and let him talk about his experiences with archery and that'd be cool. I like the kids' stories as well and
Yeah,
it's
do a
it's
little
always
father
fun.
son
And
thing. That would be fantastic.
yeah,
Oh, he would
yeah,
love that. Yeah, yeah. We can schedule that
yeah.
up for sure.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
schedule that. I'd like to talk to him and see how he's doing with it and hear some of his stories and what he thinks
yeah,
about it. And um, it's just so much fun talking to archers and especially the kids. Some of them
yeah,
have real cool stories of what they're doing, how they're doing, and everything
yeah,
else, and where they plan on taking it. And we've had some really interesting kids on here to uh, talk about archery and whatnot.
yeah. No,
So
that would be great. I would love it. Yeah, for sure.
what kind of thoughts do you have in parting? And, maybe what advice would you give to somebody that's thinking about getting in archery or struggling in archery?
I would say the first thing I would say is to not be afraid to try something. Um, ask people questions. Find somebody in the sport that you um, feel like knows it and respects it. Don't go on social media and ask a group, an unknowing group, you know, what you need. Get some one-on-one time. Um, for me, I was lucky enough coming up through. I had some pretty good people in my corner. I had a guy that taught me, other than my best friend from high school, of course, I had a guy that was kind of like my archery dad when I first started. His name is Donnie Tressler, and he was amazing. He taught me the target side of it, and then like Charlie, the guy that owned the archery shop, he taught me a lot. The bow tech, his name was Joe Pellegrino. He taught me how to work on bows. You know what I mean? So don't be afraid to get different people in your life that can help you. Um, and from your side of it, Roy, get yourself a coach, somebody that has knowledge and has the skill set to be able to teach you the right way. Everybody has an idea of what you should be doing, but somebody that's a certified coach knows what you should be doing. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
the two main things I would say is don't be afraid to try different things and get somebody in your corner that knows how to do it correctly.
Yeah, those are good points. And there's a lot of archery groups. I've been in some of them and
Mm-hmm.
somebody says, well, um, I'm struggling with this, what's wrong? And responses are,
Oh,
well, practice more.
yeah,
Um, no,
yeah,
practice more don't do
yeah,
you any good. You need the correct way to practice. And that's what
correct.
I tell them. Say, hey, you know what? Come in Arch Talk One on Facebook group. We have instructors
Yeah,
been teaching for, you know,
yeah,
20, 30 years. We have bow techs been working on bows, and
yeah,
it's just a community where, if you have a question, ask a question. You're not going to be sold anything
yeah,
because for
right.
the one in that group, if you post anything for sale, it's going to be
Yep,
deleted. And if it's the first thing you've done, you probably get banned from the group.
yeah,
I do that in another group. I have another group that I do as well. And if your first post is trying to sell something, delete, gone.
yeah. Get
You
out,
know,
go somewhere
that
else.
that's
Yeah,
not what we're here for. So if you ask a
correct.
question, we're going to help you
Yes,
out. And if you have a question, you're struggling with something, hey, get in a group or something, just upload a video. We can see
yeah,
a lot from a video.
yes,
Even one that doesn't
yeah,
really record the right angles, we can do that and then tell you, okay, we need this angle and
yeah,
we need this angle. and then we can help you. I've helped archers all over the world. My first
Yeah.
online one that I was teaching was in Italy,
Yep.
and I was helping him with his shooting form. And another
Yeah.
guy, I spent 45 minutes with him on a video call, and he went from, probably about the 4-inch group to 3 arrows touching in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the kind of stuff you'd expect if you're willing to put in the work, listen
Yeah.
to the coach, don't
Yep.
listen to 100 different coaches, listen to one.
Yes.
And
Yep.
if you're struggling with something, if you get another coach, like I have coached other people that have been coached by something, but I'm not going to coach in the way I want. I was like, okay, I'm going to ask them questions. It's like, okay, what's your coach telling you to do? What's he telling you to do? So now I know how that coach
Yeah.
is teaching. And now I'm
Yeah.
just going to reaffirm what that coach told you. I may have to word it a little bit differently to get the
Hmm.
same thing across. So now I know what you've been taught. Don't teach them something new.
Yeah.
If they have a coach already
Yeah.
and they're just struggling with something and their coach isn't available,
Yeah.
okay, then you go through and you figure out what's going on. And that's where, um, getting a coach, whether it's in-person coach or online coach,
Yeah.
in-person coaching is really nice because
Yeah.
you can get that tweak and you can actually move their elbows, move their hands, and you
Yes.
can go through all those stuff and just like, okay, think about your hand, touch the hand, touch the elbow, and everything else, and just get it going through there. Where online is a little bit different, but you can
Yeah.
still get that same thing. It's like do
Yep.
all this and I have videos where I've gone through all the different things I teach. I have videos of all those that I can say, okay, here's what I'm telling you to do. Because right
Yep.
now, with my heart stuff I had going on, I
Yes.
can't draw it now and show you, but I can show you a video
Yeah.
where I was able to do it and show you what's going on. And then I can show you, it's like, okay, here's I was doing this, and this is what I did that I tell you not to do. It's like you can go
Yeah.
through all that fine stuff and you can learn for that. And, online coaching is fairly inexpensive compared to a live coach.
Yeah.
But there's so many things you can do. And, if you're struggling with something, hey, upload a video. We're going to critique it for free in the
Yep.
group.
Yeah.
And if you need,
Yeah.
a lot more personal attention, then we can work something out. But
Yep.
hey, upload it to the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group. There is a real good resource for you. If anybody's mean or condescending, you're probably gonna get deleted from the group.
Yeah.
Because
Well, and that's what you need is you need a friendly environment for people to be able to ask questions, get good answers,
right,
and be
because
able to grow in what they're trying to do. I've done both the online coaching, which helped me immensely. The guy's name was Robert, and he is fantastic. We're still friends. We still talk probably weekly at least. And I've done
yeah,
in-person stuff with a USA archery coach by the name of Gary Neal, and he is a great guy. And the nice thing is with coaches are just like equipment. You know what I mean? You have to find one that you can relate to and one that can relate to you and can talk to you in a
right,
way you understand. As you know, you with you being a coach, sometimes um, you can say a set of words to somebody and they're like, I don't understand. But somebody else can say the same meaning, but change the wording a word or two. And they're like, oh, that's what he meant. And it's
yeah,
nothing against you or against them. Everybody learns in a different way. So, like you said, if you get a good group like the Archery Talk 101 group, that you're going to find somebody there that can help you and at least get you pointed in the right direction, keep
right,
you from getting
right.
discouraged. So that's really what it's all about.
Well, and you learn a lot of that. I did martial arts for 20 years, and you know, doing a lot of teaching, and you teach one technique and this is how you teach it, and they can't get it. If you keep telling the same thing over and over, you're gonna get the same results.
Yes.
There's insanity, right? So you got
Yes.
to
I was
word it a
just going
little
to say
bit
that.
differently. And a lot of
Yeah.
his technique, interesting one. We had a lady in there that was maybe 105 pounds.
Yeah.
She got paired up with a guy that was 300 pounds,
Uh-huh.
easily 300 pounds. She lifted him and threw him
Wow.
3 times her weight.
Yeah.
That's teaching technique.
Yes.
And of course, many years of martial arts and then archery, I've combined them a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of the things that I teach, is based out of my martial arts training because of efficiency of power and stuff like that. And one of the first things I'll ask somebody before I'm going to teach them, do you know any martial arts? And if they say yes, that's like, okay, how are you going to hold the bow? Think of a heel palm strike. The heel palm
Yeah.
strike, the focus point of the strike is between the little finger on the base of the hand attached to the to the arm bone, between the thumb and the little finger. There's a hard part in between there, not a soft part. It's that hard part is what you strike with. That's also what you're pushing the bow with, because that's
Yeah.
connected all the way. If you put pressure on that, you feel it. Even if your arm bent, I put pressure on it, I can feel it in the shoulder. I
Yeah.
put in pressure there. If I push on the side, I don't feel it in the shoulder like I do, but my hand wants to turn. And that turning is what's going to make you be inconsistent. Right there in
Yep.
that middle, it's going to keep it consistent, and you're going to put all your power to that target. And when I teach them when they shoot, that hand should point to where your target is. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
you're doing something wrong. And I like to take a
Yeah.
string, put on the thumb, my draw length, and I'm going to shoot my release, and that string should go straight towards the target. If it doesn't, you're pulling it off, and you need to fix it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a little trick that I use, that when my form is messed up, I'll put that string on and I'll keep shooting until I can get it come straight off my hand to my target.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and everything
Great.
is everything is from your elbow to the target. And
Yep.
and that's what the way I teach that part of it. It's all
Yeah.
the technique that works for you. Now, if you can't do it like that, a little bent in the arms that does that. Like one guy
Yeah.
had MS, he couldn't have the arm bent because his arm shook too much. So
Yeah.
we changed the technique a little bit. Still works. Go from there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great.
Well, I can hear the night coming where you're at. You're
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
little
It
bit
it
ahead of
got
me.
dark real fast. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. All of a sudden, you're starting to fuzz
Yeah.
out and blur away. And well,
Yeah,
you
buddy.
said you're in Ohio and I'm in Nebraska, so it's still light here.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's 8:30 here. It's probably what, 9:30 there?
Yeah. 9:22. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You're an hour earlier now, so
Yeah.
better let you go so that you can get going and um, do what you got to do to get ready for tomorrow's shoot. And let me know how everything turns out. You
You
know,
bet I
you,
will.
in the group, go ahead and post your scores and stuff, how you did at the shoot and everything
Okay.
else. And be interested for the group to see how you're doing and where you come in and where your son came in. And
Yeah.
just, hey, just let us know. And
Fantastic. Yeah. And I will get with you and I'll talk to him about we'll schedule something so he can sit down and he can share his side of the sport with you too.
yeah, that would be really cool, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he would like that.
Well, thanks for being on the show. I enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah.
I
Thank you
know
for having me. This has
we've
been
been on
a
for
lot
a
of fun. I
while,
really
but
enjoyed it. Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it too as well. So
Good.
my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm your host on Arch Talk 101. Remember, get in the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group. You can watch this video as well as get other information. If you go out to Audible or Spotify, you can listen to the podcast. If you want to go out to my YouTube channel, learn to fix it yourself, you'll also be able to watch the video, but you'll have, the normal YouTube stuff flash up on here. But
Yeah.
if you want to contact us, you can get me in the group. You can always contact me there. Or you can contact me on my YouTube channel. I think you can even comment on Spotify. I don't really do too much on comments on there, but
Okay.
hey,
Yeah.
you get a hold of us. You have any questions
Yeah.
or anything you want to talk about? Let
Yeah.
us know. We'd be glad to help you out. I know I would. I'm sure Eric would be able to help you out. If you have any questions, just
Yeah.
ask him.
I
And
was just going to say, if you don't mind, Roy, I'll share my social media stuff.
oh yeah,
You
yeah.
can get to me on Instagram at Mad Hatter Archer, and then on Facebook it's just Eric Weber. But yeah, like I said, if you have any questions or comments or anything, you can reach out to me there.
Okay, yeah. And I'll put a link to the in the description, so it makes it
Okay,
easier for you
great.
to contact them. And if you go ahead and
Yeah,
just message me those two links, and then I'll add them to the description, and I'll go from there. And stay tuned for the next one, and we'll do this again.
you bet. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye.